यस्य निश्वसितं वेद यो वेदेभ्योऽखिलं जगत् निर्ममेतमहं वन्दे विद्यातीर्थमहेश्वरम् यस्याः प्रभावमतुलं भगवानन्तो ब्रह्मा हरश्च नहि वक्तुमलं बलं च सा चण्डिकाखिलजगत्परिपालनाय नाशाय च शुभभयस्मतिं करोतु. It's a great joy today to be speaking here at Rishigud University, and it was a great revelation that this name of the university itself, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the two words Rishigud and university. Now, according to Vedic science, we have modern science, and Vedic science is a comprehensive science which includes all of modern science as one aspect of it. Now, what do we mean by knowledge or science? Science or knowledge means the coming together of the subject, object, and the process that connects the two. In Vedic literature, there are three names given to these three concepts: Rishi, Chandas, and Devata. And when all three come together, for example, suppose I have knowledge about this mobile phone. This object has to exist for the knowledge of this object to be there. But suppose this object is here, but there's nobody in the room. Then there won't be knowledge of this object. Third thing is, suppose the object is there and I am also sitting in the room, but there's no light. Still the knowledge of the object will not be there. So, for any knowledge to take place, there are three essential constituents which are compulsory. The object should be there, a subject should be there which takes that knowledge, and a process that connects the subject to the object. And these three, the subject in Vedic literature is called the Rishi, the object is called Chandas, and the process that connects this object and subject is called Devata. And when all these three come together, coming together is called Samhita. Many people must have heard that Rigved Samhita, Samved Samhita, etc. These are Samhitas. The textbooks of Vedas are called Samhitas. But the essential meaning of that is, Ved is not just something which is printed in a book. Ved literally means knowledge. And when we say science of knowledge, Ved Vigyan, the Vedic science, then we analyze this knowledge into its components and then put them together back again to bring a holistic understanding. So, Rishi, Devata, and Chandas coming together become Samhita. In other words, we can say the object, the subject, and the process of connection, they come together to create knowledge. Now, university basically is an effort to understand the unifying value of the diversity. The diversity is there in the world. We see so many different kinds of things. But what is the essential unity behind all that? That we want to understand, and that is the main purpose of university. Now, we see various number of elements, plastic, iron, this, that. Things are made up of variety of things. There are innumerable number of molecules. But if we understand at a more basic level, all the different millions of molecules are made up of about 100 different atoms. When we go deeper still, we find that neutron, proton, electron, these are the three elements which just create all these different types of atoms. So this is the process which is called unification. Variety being understood in terms of more and more unity. And with the progress of science, we have come to the stage that we have glimpsed a level which is just one level out of which all this diversity in the universe comes. And this is called in scientific circles as unified field of all the laws of nature. Now, interestingly, this unified field of all the laws of nature, it is a gift of modern physics. And physics itself considers itself to be a study of the objective world. But now when we understand this unified field and we try to see the properties of this unified field, we find that it has some unique properties. One of the properties is that it is a self-referral entity. That means it can know itself. Now when we say it can know itself, obviously it means that it's no longer a dead object, it is consciousness itself. How I am different from a non-living thing is because I can know different things, at the same time I can know myself also. So this unified field, which is the basis of all material universe, is also self-conscious. That means out of consciousness, everything material world is constructed. So it not just unifies all the material world, it unifies the object and the subject also, basically creating a samhita. So this is how we find that, and this samhita is the one which has created the whole universe. So the saying has been all along in India that from Vedas everything is created. Now it was not normally understood that how can a book create the universe. But when we understand it in these terms, that Veda is knowledge, and knowledge, which is a coming together of subject, object in the process of observation, and this being basically consciousness reverberating within itself creates diversity. And this diversity is expressed as universe on one side and the observer on the other side. Now, the practical aspect, what is the practical aspect of this? See, in our own knowledge, where does the knowledge basically reside? In a university, students are learning different things. In the same classroom, there may be thousands or maybe, let's say, 50 students are there. And same teacher is teaching, same books are there, but still in the examination, one person gets 90% marks, another person gets 20% marks. What is the difference? The difference is the ability to absorb that knowledge is different in different people. So the practical aspect of this Vedic science would be to enliven that subjective value within the students so that they're able to absorb whatever is being taught in a much more efficient manner. And for this, spiritual practices are there. I've been a student of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and he has brought the technique of transcendental meditation and spread throughout the world. He has created universities like Maharishi International University in United States and Maharishi International University in Oslo in Norway, and many other institutions like that. But the basic purpose of all these institutions is, apart from giving objective knowledge to the students like any other university gives, and I think this university is a very good example of that also, but the essential part of that is that morning and evening all students, all faculty, everybody comes in one big dome and they meditate together. Now, normally when we talk to students, people say, oh, I have so much to study and I don't have time to meditate. But there are more than 700 scientific research papers published on this transcendental meditation technique. And what it has proved is that all aspects of life, they flourish when a person starts to practice transcendental meditation. And in the context of students, basically a typical experiment is done. Suppose there are 50 students in a school, and we break the class into two groups, randomly selected groups, 25 in one group, 25 in another group. And we teach 25 students, one of the groups is given extra coaching, and during the same time, the other group is practicing transcendental meditation. After about 3 months, when the next examination comes, it has been found that people who had been practicing meditation, their average marks are much more than the other group. That is, that their ability to absorb knowledge has increased. So that shows that even students who may not be interested in spirituality or anything like that, they're just interested in getting more marks, getting a good job and all those things. If we give them that technique, whatever a person wants, that can be achieved through this technique basically, because this is the technique of going to the root of life. On the surface we are a physical body, but the essence of that is deeper than the physical body is the mind. But like I was a very small child and now I have grown, all the cells have gone away, new cells have come up in the body. But I am the same. I always feel that I'm the same person who was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So that I is even at the basis of mind. And that I or the self or Atma, unless that is experienced, then all the other knowledge that we are gaining remains on the surface. It has to really reach that deepest level. And the example for that is to flourish in life, like water the root and enjoy the fruit. If there is a tree, all that we have to do is just spend a few minutes morning and evening and water the roots, and the fruits, flowers, leaves, everything will flourish. But if somebody does not have time for watering the root and all the time is interested in plucking the fruits, after some time the fruits will stop coming. So this is very important, that in an educational setting, of course in all areas of life, all areas of society, but particularly in the student circles, it is very necessary that morning and evening some practice should be there which allows them to transcend their awareness of the body, then transcend the awareness of their mind also, and come to the real self. And that real self is not just an observer, but that is the source of all knowledge. Like I learned the Newton's laws. How did I learn the Newton's laws? From the book. From where did they come in the book? Newton wrote them. From where did Newton get those? Because he dived deep inside himself and brought them out. If Newton can bring those laws from inside, why can't every student bring that out from inside? Because consciousness is the same. So this technique, and this has been again scientifically proven, that this 20 minutes morning and evening practice of transcendental meditation increases intelligence quotient by 5 points. Then intelligence is required for us to understand something what the teacher or the book is telling us. But creativity is another quality. Creating something new from inside. That is something which is only possible through meditation. For intelligence, there may be other techniques also. But creativity is necessary. And this is just like psychological studies. But then people say, what is the basis of these increases in creativity and all those things? Correspondingly, there have been physiological studies also. What happens in the brain when we practice meditation? And it has been found that for a normal person, when we're just sitting and we apply electrodes in different parts of the brain, frontal lobe, occipital lobe, parietal lobe, etc., and the EEG is measured coming from different parts of the brain. They are different kinds of patterns from different parts of the brain. But while the person is practicing transcendental meditation, and in India we call it Vedic life meditation because the source of this knowledge is from Vedas itself. So while this meditation is being practiced, EEG patterns coming from various parts of the brain become synchronous, become coherent. That means for the first time, the whole brain starts to function as an integrated unit. And when it functions as an integrated unit, naturally the capabilities of the brain increase. So this is a panacea for the education. Of course, since every people in every walk of life want more creativity, even if a housewife, for example, wants to learn new methods, creative methods of doing whatever she is doing, and everybody wants better health. So again, the source of better health is, God has created this body, but it has the ability to heal itself also. Now, an instrument, for example, if it becomes kaput, then somebody else has to come and repair it. But this body has the beautiful ability that if I have a cut in the finger, after some time, if I give it enough rest, automatically it heals. Now, this ability of healing depends upon how much rest we get. If we keep on moving the finger, it won't heal so quickly. Now, rest can also be measured. Normally we think that I'm just sitting comfortably, I'm rested. But rest has a measure also, and the measure is amount of oxygen that we are consuming. When we are running, we consume more oxygen, that means we are not rested at all. We sit down, we consume less oxygen, breath becomes shallower. When we lie down, it becomes still less. So that is a measure of rest, how less oxygen we are consuming. Now, what is the maximum rest that we can do? A person just lies down, not moving at all. But still we are breathing. So that means that this is not complete rest. The muscles are resting, the physical body is resting, but the mind is still active. Now, if we start practicing, if we go to sleep, then we find that the level of metabolic rate decreases even from this level of lying down. And after about 8 hours of sleep, what happens is the metabolic rate comes down by about, after 6 hours of sleep, it comes down to about 8%. So the maximum rest that we have ever experienced, in fact, even that rest we have not experienced because we are sleeping at that time. Maximum rest that we ever get in life is 8% rest compared to the lying down, which is called basal metabolic rate. But when we compare this with this technique of transcendental meditation, it is practiced only for 20 minutes morning and 20 minutes evening. And within the 20 minutes, within the first few minutes, the metabolic rate comes down by 18%. In 6 hours of sleep, we get 8% rest. In 20 minutes of meditation, we get 18% rest. And this 18% is the average. Sometimes it may be less than this, but for a few seconds, it comes to much deeper than that also. Now, the duration of rest is a lot in sleep. But it's not the duration which is important, it is the depth, even if for a few moments. That depth of rest is very important. And why is that important? Because, first of all, let's say, we know that intellectual capabilities, as we just discussed, they are different for different people, but the brains are the same. Everybody, Einstein had the same amount of brain matter as everybody else has. So, why is there a difference? The difference is because we are not able to use the full potential of our brain. And why we are not able to use the full potential? Because, just an analogy, suppose these are the nerves. Because of tension, because of stress, because of fatigue, our nervous system gets tied up in something like knots. And all those nerves which are tied up in these knots are not being used. And in life we have more problems, more stresses, etc. come, and more nervous system starts getting tied up in these knots, and our ability to think, ability to maintain health, all abilities keep on coming down. This is called the process of aging. With age, all capabilities come down. But with this meditation, we can reverse the aging process to some extent. And why it happens? Because if this knot is there, and these knots are at various levels, some are superficial, some are deeper, some are very deep. Depending upon how deep that knot is, that much deep rest is needed for it to unravel. In sleep, we get maximum 8% rest. So all the stresses that are on the top 8% level of the brain they get released by deep sleep. And that's why we feel fresh in the morning, we feel everything is good. Not only we are able to do something better, study better, exercise better, but we feel better. Enjoyment is more. So all these things are achieved by just 8% rest every night. If instead of that 8% we start doing 18% rest morning and evening, then those deeper stresses which never had the opportunity to open up, they will also start opening up, and then our capacities will start increasing. IQ increases, creativity increases, health, all kinds of diseases. There have been various research papers on various types of diseases, and it's about every kind of disease becomes, first of all, it heals very quickly, and the ability to resist new diseases from coming, that increases. So basically, whatever, different people have different purposes or aims in life. Just like I gave the example of this tree. By watering the root, the leaves want to become green. They become more green when we water the roots. The flower wants to become red. It becomes more red when we water the root. Like that. So various people have various desires in their life and various aims. But this practice of meditation morning and evening is something which will fulfill all the desires, whether they are seemingly opposite of each other also. So, yeah, it will be good if there are some questions, then maybe some more deeper understanding will come out in the form of questions. The beauty, yeah.
So, in which duration can we increase the duration of our dreaming if we practice a meditation?
The result starts to accrue at the very first day of learning. On the very first day when you're learning, if somebody has to measure the metabolic rate, we'll find that all these changes that we find, the EEG coherence, all these things start to happen. Of course, with practice, it keeps on increasing. Is that what you were asking? Yeah.
Thank you.
And the beauty of this is, now it's so important and so beneficial, people think it must be something very difficult. The interesting thing is that normally when we teach meditation and after that, we say, can you think of anything easier than that in life? And nobody is able to answer that. Because this is the most easy thing that can ever be. Because going out and doing something can be difficult. But coming back home cannot be difficult. So all that is needed is a direction. Normally, like suppose these are our 5 senses, they are always directed outwards. That is the nature of senses. The eyes are meant to see outside, not inside. But, and they find enjoyment in whatever they see. We see something good, we taste something good, we find enjoyment and we want to keep on doing it more and more. But there is a source of infinite happiness at the source of these senses. But since they are directed outwards, they don't know about its existence. So all that we have to do is once turn their attention inwards. And now that same impulse which was driving them outwards towards the objects of perception, the same need for greater and greater happiness, because it finds there an infinite source of happiness inside, so automatically the mind gets attracted to it. And that is why it becomes effortless, because it is using the essential nature of mind itself. The basic nature of mind is to go for happiness. Whether you by tasting something, by looking at something, whatever. But these happinesses that we get through the senses are always transitory. They are not infinite, number one, and they change after some time. So we keep on shifting from one sense to another, we keep on doing something else. We can't do the same thing. Even if a most beautiful flower, we can't look at it for half an hour. And naturally the mind will go here and there. But that source of thoughts, from where all thoughts arise, see, every thought has some energy because it moves. And every thought has some specific direction. That means some intelligence is there. So every thought has some intelligence and some energy. An infinite number of thoughts keep on coming from deep inside, from somewhere inside. So suppose I ask you to write what is going on in your mind in a piece of paper. You'll write 5, 6 different things. So for 5 minutes, we just sit quietly, don't read anything, don't look at anything. And then I ask you, now what is going on in your mind? We'll find that these new things will be completely different from what you wrote 5 minutes earlier. From where did these new thoughts come? They did not come from outside. They came from somewhere deep within ourselves. But why didn't we know about these 5 minutes earlier? Because they were not included in the earlier list. That means there are levels of knowledge that we ourselves don't know. And when we go deep to that level, then that knowledge starts to come up to the surface. So this is how new inventions are done. This is how new musical things are created. Everything new that is created comes from there, and that is the source of creativity, and not just the source of creativity in human beings, in us, but this is the source of creativity of the universe. As we just said, that this consciousness is what has created the whole universe. So it's that same consciousness that we access inside of us and get used to bringing that creativity outside in the natural world and get all successes whatever we want.
So what I have understood from your conversation is about, there are 4 or 5 words about which were they mentioned in the conversation: consciousness, mind, happiness, sense organs, thoughts. And what I would try to speak this in my words, that since as a human being, our sense organs are mostly outwardly driven, so we are not able to focus on ourselves, what do we really want, and that thought process is not diverted inwardly. And we look for the happiness outside, in different objects, different kind of experiences. Since that happiness is not outside, happiness is inside, but because of these external distractions, we are not able to focus inside. And that whole process of unhappiness continues.
Yes.
So via this meditation, the idea is to perhaps pause that process of continuously looking outwards, look within, and when that looking within is done, that source of happiness via that thing, consciousness, perhaps, I don't know that, I haven't experienced it, I'm just trying to bind all those words together and trying to understand what is being communicated. I might be able to, I might not be able to, I'm just attempting. And when a person does that, that outwardly seeking stops, if a person is able to do that, and that perhaps that happiness, satisfaction that every human being is longing for across the whole world is able to find inside. And desires are, since that they get to know about that root cause of the problem, those desires, when they identify it, that happiness kind of a thing is found, what they are chasing. Right? So my question is, does this process of meditation helps the person to fulfill, first of all, to identify the right desire, and then fulfill that desire? Does this process of meditation aims at that?
Yes, yes, yes.
And if it is done by that, I read and I heard about something like law of attraction. There was a book, Secret.
Yeah.
I saw the movie, I read the book, that was many years back. I can relate something, that secret thing here.
Mhm.
How is this meditation different from that law of attraction? This is my question.
See, normally when we read about law of attraction, there are many books about that. People think that by thinking about what we want, the universe will start to give it to us. Of course, that also works to some extent. But as I was saying, thinking is a very superficial level of the mind. It's, some desires can get fulfilled like that. But beyond the level of thinking is the level of feeling. And beyond the level of feeling is the level of being. Thinking is very much our individual thing. Everybody right now must have different thoughts. Feelings are more common. Suppose some good program is going on, then everybody is feeling happy. But consciousness, being, is something which is universal. Like waves may be different on the surface of the lake, but when all the waves settle down, the water is common. And that is the source of all the waves. So if the desire is at that deepest level, from where all the waves arise, then nothing is impossible. How we desire is important, that at what level we do the desire. So, because you see, in Hindi or Sanskrit, there are words Atma, which means self. And we have all individual selves. But there's another level which is called Paramatma, that is ultimate self. On the surface, as we said, we are different, like all the waves are different. But the essence of all the waves is the water itself. That is the universal consciousness. And that universal consciousness is all powerful. There's nothing that is impossible at that level. If we could somehow, through this process of meditation, reach that universal level, become that, then we become Paramatma at that level. We become all powerful, all pervasive, everything. And then it is my desire which nothing can stop. So yes, law of attraction is there. The universe is there to help us. But we have to really understand how to talk to it effectively. Just talking on the surface, the universal reality is deep inside. If we are talking here, thinking, oh, I want this, I want that, it may not happen. But if we go there, like if we go to the Prime Minister and talk to him, then anything is possible in the country. But if we are not in touch with him, sitting in our home, we keep on desiring something, that won't happen. So law of attraction works, but it works much, much more effectively if we express those desires at the deepest level, and that deepest level can be reached only through this meditation.
I have another question then. When a person reaches that level, perhaps, does the desire even remain there?
Yeah, that's a very beautiful question. I was about to talk about that. See, what happens actually is, first of all, how easy it is to fulfill desires also depends upon how big the desire is. If I have a desire that my garden in front of my house should be better, that's a small desire. But if suppose I studied together with the Prime Minister, we are good friends, and I go to meet him, and I tell him, oh, please do something in front of my house. He will say, oh, such a small desire he has, and after some time he'll stop meeting. But if I talk to him about making everybody prosperous in the country or some big desire, then that will be something which he'll be interested in. So that deepest level is like the Prime Minister or the boss of the universe. And if we go to it and with a very small desire, it may take much longer time to fulfill. If we go to it with a very big desire, it will become instantly fulfilled. So, and then this is about the depth of desire and then the size of desire. When we start practicing meditation, our desires become bigger and bigger, in fact. It's not that we become desireless, because we find so much contentment and everything in deep inside happiness, so we don't want anything in the world. No. This is the inward stroke of life. But life is made up of both inward and outward stroke. And the deeper we go in the inward stroke, more dynamically we come out in the outward stroke. And when we come out more dynamically, our ability to fulfill desires becomes better, number one. Second, the size of our desires becomes better. First, I was thinking just of fulfilling my individual desires, then I start thinking about the family or the nation or the world or the universe, like that. So the size of desires becomes better, ability to fulfill becomes better, and that's how growth takes place.
Does it mean then the quality of desire changes? That from being selfish, the perspective changes to a
Yes.
bigger overview, maybe to a societal level or to nationality level or to a global level.
Yes.
Step by step it grows. Otherwise, normally most of us are more selfish, personal desires driven.
Even
Very
an
small.
enlightened person is also selfish. Only difference is that his self is bigger. Because when we go to that deepest level, then I realize that I am not just limited within this body. The universal consciousness, that is me. So then I still am selfish, but then I'm looking like if I'm just selfish about my finger, and now I realize that the whole body is me, so I'm not just selfish about finger, but the whole thing. Similarly, I just realize experientially, not just intellectually, that all these bodies are my bodies. So anyone suffering is my suffering. So I'm still selfish, but the self becomes bigger. That's all. Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to hear about a broad meditation practice. You are talking about meditation every morning and evening, but it is time to be in tune with spirit access continually throughout the days and for constant unification of the inner and outer world of man. International Scientific School of Universology has a practice of mental psychosystemic modeling and the construction of a united energy system. Continuing the practice of meditation, we would be interested in combining and complementing our approaches. Do you consider dynamic meditation in collective action, that is operation? Does the meditation practice you are talking about provide for such constant infusion?
Yes. See, dynamic meditation also is, ultimately, after regular practice of meditation, what happens is that every activity that we do starts becoming meditative. In the beginning, of course, there's a difference. When we are meditating, we feel that silence. When we come out, we lose that silence and we get into problems. But over time, the nervous system becomes more and more attuned to that being in that state. So even when we are outside of meditation, that coherence in the brain continues. And as I was just saying, that not only we come out of this and maintain that happiness, but we become more and more dynamic also. So all these practices have their own advantages, but there's one thing that, as I was just saying, the watering the root. And there may be different techniques for making the leaves better, or making the flowers better, or making everything better. But there are certain things which are common to everything. So this transcendental meditation is something which takes care of the basis of life, and then each aspect of life has their own techniques. And they are also useful definitely. But it's good to at least practice one technique which is the basis of all other things. And of course, it would be good to practice, like we also teach not just meditation but asanas, that is physical postures to take care of the physical body, and things like that. So if there are no more questions, then we can say thank you so much.